of the opinion that while I wholeheartedly support protecting the people of color in this community and making sure that people have housing, I also do not agree with government overreach. And that is what I think this is tonight. It's politicking for Allison Snow to run for mayor so that the UT will write a favorable article about her, so that when people Google her, good things pop up. And I think that it's a rush to do something that is solely being done at this time for politicking, posturing of a certain individual. And because of those two things, I don't think that this is in good faith at all. I don't think that this is a wise business decision. And I'm gonna be voting no.
Thank you so very much. Before I continue on, I do have a question for the city attorney. I know with the original agenda item, we were requiring a 4/5 vote. In this instance where things have changed, is that requirement still there?
No, the fourth vote is only for an urgency ordinance, because of the imminent nature and, need to implement something immediately. So a fourth vote is not required. It's only three-fifths.
I thank you so very much. I'll move on to, Councilmember Castro.
Thank you. I support the essence of the motion. It's in line with the motion that I had in mind. The one hesitation, maybe it's a clarification that I have is tell me if I'm interpreting this right. The 5% mentioned in my mind is basically in line with the county, the county, you know, it's basically in the spirit of the county ordinance, and it's not, because it wasn't my intent to implement rent control. My intent was for staff to work with the property owners to make sure that nobody has to leave because of their inability to pay. So I have mixed feelings about 5%, but if we put it in the context of the county ordinance and say that we're basically following their lead, that would be okay.
Are you referring to the urgency ordinance that we talked about earlier, that the county just recently implemented in January?
Yeah, because I think that, because we had an idea earlier that maybe we followed that, but then we realized that that doesn't necessarily apply to us.
The county ordinance applies the consumer price index for the prior year.
Oh, that's right. The
So
CPI just happens to be.
It could shift.
Yeah.
And, well, and CPI, I think, is 3.4% actually.
So, okay, let me say, my original intent when I said I wanted to make a motion was to direct staff, basically to solve this problem, to assure that nobody has to leave the park because of an increase in rent, and to assure that the park is being improved and maintained. I'm not necessarily against that, because I think that we already got assurance that the rent isn't going to go up more than 5%. But I want to make sure that we're not directing staff to put together a rent control ordinance, because that's not what I had in mind. I had in mind to direct staff to find a solution to the problem.
That's not my understanding that we're coming back with an ordinance. What I understand is, and Lydia can add what her understanding is, my understanding that we are to reach out to the property owner and come to an agreement on what is reasonable for the property owner and the tenants. He has made representations tonight, but there's no agreement in place. So we would have to sit down and make an MOU or an agreement
Okay.
that would suit the needs of the city council and we could certainly come back with that at a later date.
That sounds like that's in the spirit of what I was originally suggesting. Yeah, definitely, that's in the spirit of what I was suggesting. I wanted to make a quick comment in relation to rent collected and how it can be applied toward improvements. And I wholeheartedly agree that when people earn money, that, you know, it's not my business how they spend it. Except in this case, we're not talking about how he spends his personal income. We're talking about how he spends rent that he collects as part of his business. And so that I just want to clarify that it's part of the business plan, okay? And it's also, I think there's quite a lot of precedent for considering what they call reasonable rate of return. So I think if you understand, you know, put it in the right context, okay? I don't want to regulate anybody's personal income, but I do think it's reasonable to pay attention to how the business serves the people and how it serves the interests of Lemon Grove. And I hope that's clear. If a lot of money is being collected in rent, then I think it's a reasonable expectation that the park be maintained in you know, up to a standard. And if a property owner wants to increase rent, then there, I think there's a reasonable expectation that would have some relationship to the maintenance needs of the property. I'll just say that for what it's worth. And thank you. With those clarifications, I'm going to say that I'm going to be able to support the motion.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza?
No, we're not voting.
I thought, just voted. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I think we had some really great discussion. We did have a motion, we did have a second, and I'll ask our city clerk to call the roll.
Yes. Yes, the motion was made by Councilmember Snow with a second by Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza. Roll call vote. Councilmember Castillo.
Aye.
Councilmember LeBaron.
Councilmember LeBaron, no.
Councilmember Snow.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
Aye.
Mayor Vasquez.
Aye.
The motion passes on a vote of 5-1. I mean 4-1, sorry about that.
Madam Mayor and City Council, it is my duty to share with you that it is past the 8 o'clock time hour, which I have to do a check-in with. We have several still items on the agenda. I did check with the Public Works Director, and we would still like to pull item number 4, which is the discussion. Both he and I feel that it is a very important discussion, and we need to have a robust discussion. And at this late hour, we're not gonna be able to accomplish that, so we'd like to carry it over to the next meeting, if that is okay. And, I've talked to the city attorney, and she's okay with moving these, closed session items to the next meeting, if you're okay with that. We do need to move forward with item 3, so we can get the work done on that particular one, relatively quickly. All of the lights will flash. Mr. Morgia has assured me that he can get this done in 5 minutes, and so hopefully any questions will be short and sweet and to the point. And then if council is okay, we can forego any of the council reports, definitely my reports. If there's anything important, get it my way, and I can share it with the entire council during, make reports like, yes, and I can feed it to the city council, with a, the council newsletter. Sorry, lose my train of thought.
Thank you so very much. So, our city manager is doing a temperature check here, and from what I understand, he's saying, let's hear item number 3, before we end the, city council meeting this evening, and the other items will be moved to our next city council meeting. I do see that, Councilmember Snow, wanted to say a few words.
Yeah, we have postponed reporting back on meetings for like, this is the second meeting now, so we're going all the way back to the beginning of January. And so I was wondering if there is a way that we can update, because I have like now 3 pages of meetings that I've attended. There's no way I can get the information to the community in 2 minutes at another meeting. Plus, I think it's important for accountability. We make commitments to be at these meetings, and I wanna make sure that these meetings are being attended, and this is our opportunity to do that. So if there's some kind of mechanism for us to do that, I want that.
We could share the information with the city manager. Maybe I should just stay information out.
I think that would work. Mine, like I said, mine's literally 3 pages long now.
Even with 3 pages, our time limit is 2 minutes. And so there's no way that you can get 2 minutes on the record. And so I think the recommendation of sending it to the city manager and then having that information included in an email, to the elected officials would be a really great way to get everybody up to speed. And so with the changes that are proposed by the city manager for the rest of the agenda tonight, do we have a motion for that?
Could we also attach, add 2 minutes? I'm reading my mind. Yes, then I make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll say.
And I will say this, because that's such a great idea of attaching it to the minutes, I think from now on, we should probably forego the city council reports and then have the city council reports attached to the minutes. That way they're memorialized.
They are memorialized.
And that is true, but we wanna make sure that we capture all of that. I know it's not agendized, but it was brought up by Councilmember Snow.
I want to interject something. There was a motion, I don't know what the motion was.
The motion was
It's not clear
to,
to me.
yeah, the motion was to, bypass the other agenda items on the agenda tonight, except for item number 3. And, Councilmember Snow made a recommendation, because, it was Councilmember Mendoza, because Councilmember Snow said she had 3 pages of notes of events that she attended. And, she wanted to know where that could get memorialized. And so, that kind of went off topic regarding, the motion that we have in place. But I mentioned that that's such a great idea, and that it could be attached to our minutes, that might be a great way to go moving forward. So,
Could I make a suggestion?
yes,
Can we take these one at a time? So we want to continue items number 4
yes,
and the closed session to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Is that the motion?
yes.
Who made the motion?
I did.
And is there a second by Gaston? Okay, there is a motion and a second on the table. Let's take a vote on that motion to continue those 2
And
items.
I was,
I think there is some disagreement about council comments, and that's why I'm separating them. I think that would be the easiest way to do it.
Yes. And so, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll.
I mean, it doesn't come from me, I mean, so he's trying to figure it out.
Councilmember Snow,
Aye.
Councilmember LeBaron,
Aye.
Councilmember Castillo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza,
I,
Mayor Vasquez.
Aye.
Motion carries on a vote of 5-0.
And now there was language put out by Councilmember Snow, supported by Councilmember Mendoza, about 3 pages of, council notes. And the idea was to, attach those to the minutes. So that was an idea that was not part of our agenda tonight, but that conversation was elevated. So I don't know, where to place that, and I'll lean to our city attorney to make that determination.
What I would say about attaching the notes to the minutes is that if you have the notes available right now so that everybody can review them, they can be attached to the minutes. But if you don't have them available for review right now, I don't think it would be appropriate to attach them to the minutes. You would have to go through them.
Yeah, I'll type them up for the city clerk, it's like in my handwriting, so they're like, not the easiest to read.
Since they're available for review right now, then I would say that's okay to attach them to the minutes, but you have to make them available for review.
And,
Just like tear out the pages and hand them over?
You have to make them available for review of the council and for the public. Does that make sense? Because
Show me your notes.
We need minutes encapsulate the record, so you have to make those notes available for review right now, so that everybody is aware of what they contain.
Now we just wasted more
and
time.
it looks like we're having a discussion about changing our processes.
It's really a procedural
It's a
issue.
procedure thing, it's a process, and we really wanna get to item number 3, so I just, if we can lean to you to just go ahead and give us direction on that so that we can move forward, that would be good.
So long as the notes are available for the meetings that you have attended, and you hand those to the clerk and they are available to the public and for the council to review, those notes can be appended to the minutes as part of the meeting tonight. Does that make sense? There doesn't need to be a motion.
I thank you so very much for providing clarity. I'm sure that those who have notes that want to pass those notes forward will do so at the end of this meeting. And we'll move on to item number 3, which is the award of purchase task order number 2024-02 for traffic signal repairs to Southwest Signal Service. This item was continued from January 16th, 2024. And so I'll turn this over to Izzy Murguia, who is our Public Works Director, to present the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. The item before you this evening is a recommendation to award a purchase order for traffic signal repairs to Southwest Signal Service for the Broadway, Rose Street, and Kemp Street intersections. In mid-October of last year, this intersection began cycling incorrectly, creating traffic delays in various phases of the intersection. It was later determined that the detector lead-in cable that transmits vehicle detection data from corresponding detection loops to the traffic controller requires replacing. Due to the DLC failing, vehicles were not being detected at various phases, as I previously mentioned, resulting in prolonged queuing. On January 4th, 2024, the intersection was placed in flash mode, as it is today, to facilitate the flow of traffic. The image here is just a depiction of what the DLC is and how it integrates with vehicle detection loops. So, the illustration in yellow, those circles that you see on Grove Street and Broadway heading west and Broadway heading east, those are meant to illustrate vehicle detection, or those are traffic loops essentially, which are designed to detect vehicles and send a signal to the traffic controller to change the signal at the various phases depending on vehicle staffing. The loops all tie into the DLC, which is the red rectangle down on the bottom left-hand corner, which is at the corner of Broadway and the exitway of the business center down on South of Broadway. The DLC connects to the traffic controller, which is noted in the rectangular on the right-hand side. It's on the corner of Broadway and Kemp Street. The run is about 342 feet. The issue with the DLC is that the wiring and the conduit essentially rusted out and the conduit itself had become rigid so that we could not run new wiring through the conduit for new wire. Next slide, please. To bring this traffic signal back online, the scope of work that is required is we have to trench 342 feet and run all new conduit and all new wiring, install a new pole box for the DLC, and connect that wiring up to the traffic cabinet and connect it to the traffic controller so that it can receive the data from the traffic loops at the various phases so that it can detect vehicles and cycle the lights correctly. This work will take approximately 4 days. We're recommending night work so that businesses on Broadway are lessened with the impacts there with the construction. There is sufficient funding available in our gas tax fund for award of this purchase order. We are utilizing our current contract with Southwest Signal Service. This would be an additional task under the contract. It would be under a time and materials basis. The purchase order would be not to exceed $75,000. Next slide, please. Therefore, staff recommends the City Council adopt a resolution to award a purchase order for traffic signal repairs to Southwest Signal Service in the amount not to exceed $75,000 and authorize the city manager to execute any necessary documents. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Before we get to the questions, I'll check with our city clerk to see if we have any speaker slips. And at this time, we do not have any speaker slips for this particular agenda item. And so I will do my first round of questions. We'll have 2 maximum, starting with Councilmember Snow.
One of the concerns I had is the flow while we're still doing construction on the other corner of the new apartment complex. How will this impact the flow of traffic while that construction is also being done?
So currently, as I mentioned, it's on flash mode. It's Broadway, as I'm sure you're aware, it's down to 1 lane. And the flow of traffic has worked well with the lane closure and the flash mode. We are working with the construction company to keep in place the K-rails in front of, while they conduct their improvements, which should be completed here pretty soon, but to keep the K-rails in place while we do our construction as well, to facilitate the construction work. But because it's night work, we feel like the impacts will be significantly minimized than if it were to be conducted during the day.
And, about how much noise do we anticipate? It's a largely retail area. I don't know that anybody lives too close to there. There are a few homes. How noisy do you think it'll be for the surrounding neighbors?
So really the work, I'm not gonna say there's not gonna be any noise, but essentially the work required is soft heading the asphalt and then pretty much removing the 2-foot saw cut by hand. So I will double check if they're using an excavator. I don't think they are, but the work is pretty much manual after the saw cut.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember LeBaron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no questions for staff at this point. Thank you, Izzy.
Thank you so very much, Councilmember Gaston.
I have no questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
No questions.
I do have a question. What are the hours of operation for this particular improvement project?
So the hours would be essentially from 7 p.m. To 12 p.m., or I'm sorry, midnight.
And then my other question is, when is the anticipated schedule? I did hear you mention that it will be 4 days of work, that it's night work, but when do you anticipate that the schedule will start, especially since we're in the rainy season, and when do you anticipate the end date for this particular project?
So the end date, we approximate about 3 weeks. So the contractor is waiting for a purchase order, which would be issued as soon as tomorrow if the council so considers this item. The only thing that will prolong them is their traffic control plan, which they have not yet started on it because they need a purchase order. So I estimate about 3 weeks.
Thank you so very much. But the community impact will be about 4 days.
You could walk the streets over there.
Right.
Thank you for the clarity. I will check to see if there are any other questions or comments about this project. Councilmember Gaston?
I would like to make a motion to approve.
We do have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second for this agenda item. I will ask our city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember LeBaron,
Aye.
Councilmember Gastel,
Aye.
Councilmember Snow,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza,
Aye.
Mayor Vasquez.
Aye.
Motion carries on a vote of 5-0.
I thank you so very much. As we did move the other items to our next city council agenda, the next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be held on Tuesday, February 20th, 2024 at 6 p.m. This meeting is now adjourned.
And so you can't feel it.